Imagine, getting like an unexpected deposit in your bank account or maybe even like your payment arriving a little bit earlier than you thought. Like, wouldn't that be nice?
That would be pretty nice.
Well, today we're going to dive into some information that could help you understand like your Social Security or SSDI payments, and maybe even make that a reality for you.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to take a deep dive into these average monthly Social Security retirement and SSDI benefits for 2025.
Right.
You've shared some numbers with me, and today we're hoping to kind of unpack those a little bit and figure out what they mean for you listening out there, and highlight some of the key details.
Yeah, absolutely. So the numbers we're looking at show that the average monthly benefit for Social Security retirement in 2025 is $1,976. And for SSDI, it's $1,580.
Okay, yeah.
I think when people see a number like, almost $2,000, they might think, oh, is that what I'm going to get?
Right. Right. You see a headline with that number and you go, oh, wow. Okay, so next week I'm going to get almost $2,000. But that's not exactly how it works.
Right.
These are averages. And what an average means is that, some people get more, some people get less. And this $1,976, this average, is just the number where about half the people get more than that and half the people get less.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not like a guaranteed amount. It just kind of gives you a sense of the middle ground, so to speak.
Exactly.
And another thing to keep in mind is that, you see that initial figure, but that might not be the actual amount that ends up in your bank account, right? Because there can be deductions and things like that.
Exactly. These figures we're talking about, the $176 and the $180, those are what we call the gross amounts.
Right.
So that means before any deductions are taken out. And a big deduction for a lot of folks is that Medicare Part B premium.
Oh, right, right. And that premium, as I understand it, is around $185 a month, right? So if you factor that in, it can make a pretty big difference to what you actually receive.
Exactly. Let's take the SSDI benefit, for example, that 500 and 580. You take 185 out of that, and you're down to about 500, 395. Give or take a few bucks. It's a rough estimate, but
Yeah.
it shows you how those deductions can add up.
Yeah, that's a significant difference.
Yeah.
And then for the retirement benefit, if you start with $1,976 and then you deduct that same $185 for Medicare Part B, you're looking at, around $1,791.
Right.
So it just goes to show that, while those averages give you a general idea, you really got to consider those deductions to get a sense of what you'll actually take home.
Absolutely. And Medicare Part B, that's just one example. There could be other deductions depending on your individual situation.
Right, right.
So it's really important to look at the whole picture and not just focus on that average.
And it's interesting, you mentioned that the average is just one piece of the puzzle. And it's true. The range of Social Security benefits out there is pretty huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. The lowest amount you can get is something like $50 a month, and the highest is over $5,100.
Wow, that's quite a difference. Why is there such a big gap, do you think?
Yeah, it is. Well, like we said before, Social Security benefits, they're not one size fits all. It really depends on your individual earnings history, how much you earned over your working years, and also when you decide to start taking those benefits.
Okay, that makes sense.
So someone who worked for a long time and had, pretty good earnings and then waits until, their full retirement age or even later to start taking benefits, they're going to get a much higher monthly payment than someone who, maybe had lower earnings and started taking benefits earlier.
Right, so there's a lot of factors that go into it. And, speaking of people starting to receive benefits, it's kind of mind-blowing to think how many people are actually entering the system every single day. According to the information you shared, something like 11,000 people become eligible for Social Security retirement benefits every day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of people. It just shows you how important Social Security is and how many people rely on it. But it's important to note that, SSDI, that's a different story. There's not that same kind of daily influx of people because it's not tied to a specific retirement age.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, shifting gears a little bit, we've been talking about these average benefit amounts, and this often leads to discussions about, the future of Social Security.
Yeah.
Where are the current benefits enough? Your sources mentioned some interesting ideas for potential improvements, like linking those minimum benefits to the federal poverty line, or even raising everyone's benefits to be closer to that average.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are some pretty big ideas, and they could definitely make a difference for a lot of people, especially those who, maybe didn't have the highest earnings during their working years.
Right.
I mean, imagine someone who's currently getting that minimum benefit, close to that $50 a month, and then suddenly it's tied to the poverty line. That could be a huge increase for them.
Right, right. It could really help them make ends meet.
Absolutely. And then, the idea of raising everyone's benefits closer to the average, that would give a big boost to a lot of retirees and people on disability.
Yeah, I can see how that would be really helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah. It could make a real difference in terms of financial security.
Another thing that caught my attention was the mention of Bernie Sanders being appointed to the Senate Finance Committee.
Mhm.
Given, his history of advocating for expanding Social Security, could this mean that we might see some legislation aimed at increasing benefits in the future?
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Senator Sanders, he's been a big supporter of strengthening Social Security and making sure people have, enough to live on. So his presence on that committee could mean that, there's more attention on the issue and maybe even some actual action taken to improve those benefits.
Interesting. So while we can't say for sure what the future holds, it sounds like there's some potential for positive changes down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's an important thing to remember. We've been talking about these current averages, but Social Security, it's not static. It's always evolving, and there could be changes in the future that affect those benefit amounts.
Right. So staying informed about those potential changes is important for everyone.
Exactly. Keeping up with those discussions and those potential legislative changes, it's all part of, planning for your financial future.
So to recap, we've learned that the average monthly Social Security retirement benefit in 2025 is projected to be around $1,976. And for SSDI, it's about $1,580. However, we've also emphasized that, your actual benefit, it's going to depend on several factors. Your earnings history, when you start claiming, and those potential deductions like the Medicare Part B premium.
Exactly. And remember that wide range we talked about earlier, from that low end to that high end. It shows that, everyone's situation is different.
Right, right.
So, one thing you can do is go to the Social Security Administration's website, and they have a tool where you can get an estimate of your own benefit amount that can really help you get a clearer picture of your potential income down the line.
That's a great tip. Knowing those personalized projections can really help with your financial planning.
Absolutely.
Well, we hope this deep dive has been helpful, giving you a better understanding of these Social Security and SSDI figures and all the different things that can impact how much you receive.
Yeah, we hope so too. And, as you're thinking about all this, consider how these potential benefits fit into your own retirement plans or, your overall financial security. What can you do based on what we've talked about today? Maybe there are some adjustments you can make, or maybe there's some more research you need to do.
That's a great question to ask yourself. We hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought and helped shed some light on these important aspects of Social Security and SSDI.
Yeah, we hope so too.
All right, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.